Hello, my Aloha tribe, and welcome to the Aloha Perspective, where you get a little bit of something and a whole lot of everything. Happy Friday. It is Aloha Friday, and it is Aloha Oracle Friday. And yes, Aloha Friday is a thing in Hawaii. So before we get going, this is the week of oracles. So I have guidelines, and the reason I read these is because if I don't, we have 10 minutes longer on the show. So, because squirrel. So, oracle guidelines. Excuse me. Do not worry where the message is coming from. I only work from a good place. So if you're seeing this, there's a reason you are here. And welcome to baby sibling and my beautiful, wonderful, handsome, lovely nephews and their beautiful mom. Not that you're a side thought, okay? Number 2, do not make a card fit your question if it does not resonate with you. Forcing an outcome or an answer not meant for you can cause unnecessary stress and overthinking. Number 3, I will give you the message I receive and the message from the book because someone took the time to write it and put it together. And number 4, angels, God, heaven, etc. might come up. If that is not where you lean, feel free to insert your higher power in the universe. This will help the flow of reading without stopping to clarify. That being said, let's go. All right. So, these are the ones that spoke to me today. The Healing Fairies, the New Orleans deck. I love this one. And Magical Unicorns. So I think I'll start with the Magical Unicorns because I just kept hearing in my head, Magical Unicorns, Magical Unicorns. So, for those that wonder how I do this, before I start, I generally tap in with Archangel Gabriel. So, you know, and like I said, if that's not your thing, then whoever you want it to be, just my pal Gabriel. All right. So, because again, I don't want people to get hung up on where the message is coming from. The whole point is to receive the message. And if it resonates, great. If it doesn't, then keep moving forward or keep waiting or, you know, think about it and it might come back around later. Right. So, ooh, it generally, I do 3 shuffles and whatever comes out, we do. So, right. Interestingly enough, we got 3 cards. Oh, so let's see. What's the first one? Well, the first one that popped up, like literally, the other one's popped up like this, has popped up like this. So, let go of stress. Let go of stress. Don't take on other people's stresses. Breathe it out now. So, if you've ever done mindful breathing, you know what to do. If you haven't, just remember, however many seconds of breath you take in, you should double it on the way out. So don't sit there and try to make yourself pass out, all right? If you've never done this before, start with 2, inhale 2 seconds, exhale 4 seconds, inhale 4 seconds, exhale 8 seconds. In my personal opinion, it should never go over 10. In fact, it should probably never go over 8. Okay, because you don't want to make yourself pass out. You also don't want to hyperventilate. So, you know, it's all about mindfulness. It's all about taking your breaths and getting back to center and reminding yourself where you are when you do start to get that stressed out feeling. And you know, and I get it. I mean, I am a chronic overthinker, and worrier. And in fact, for my mother, I actually observe Lent, and I gave up worrying, and it's not going well, but but I'm working through it, and I'm learning a lot about myself. So let go of stress. Again, don't take on other people's stresses. Breathe it out now. When we go through life, we tend to pick up things, right? And sometimes they end up becoming our habits. But if you're in a situation where you're dealing with something or you're dealing with someone or whatever the situation is, take a step back, remind yourself if this is hitting you just from a place of compassion and empathy and not a place from, you know, sometimes when something makes us mad, it might be because we have something left in us to heal or something in there that we haven't discovered yet that needs to be healed. So, you know, if you're not feeling that, then don't take it personally. Because sometimes people are working through their stuff. And, you know, I was just talking to someone not too long ago, right before I started the show. So I talked to baby sibling this morning, and then I had a small conversation. And they said to me, thank you for finally seeing this path. And all I said was, I know I'm being a little cryptic there, but she said to me, thank you for seeing this path. And this is one of my spirit guides. And all I said was, you know what? I said, my heart always knew. It just took a while for my brain to catch up. And once my brain caught up, I realized, oh my gosh, I'm not stressing over this at the moment. And I'm going to keep reminding myself that, that I've had this moment, that I've had this epiphany, because, we have to figure out what our worries are, where our worries are, and how we can heal it. And worries and healing, period, is like an onion. It's something that you're continually peeling until it's gone. So you may think you've covered a situation once, but it's going to keep swinging around until it's fully healed. But you'll start to notice the changes when it does. You'll start to notice the changes in other people when it does. It's just a matter of patience. It's like mining. I used this metaphor this morning. Think of the 7 dwarfs going into the mine, right? How did they break up their day of doing the same thing over and over and over again, looking for these precious gems? And the precious gems are the epiphanies. It's the enlightenment you see in someone's eyes. It's the aha moment. But they hi-hoed their way through it. Right? Off to work they go. And it doesn't have to feel like work. It doesn't have to be work. But for them, that's how they made it through. They turned it into something more joyous. So instead of looking at something as, oh my God, I can't believe I'm going through this again, think of it in the respect of, okay, how do I make this where, I'm seeing the fruits of my labor, where I'm not going like, oh, but instead, you know what? This is worth the journey. The outcome will be worth the journey. And you just have to decide how long you're willing to stay on the journey. If it's revolving around something else or someone else, and if you're willing to be on that journey. But when it comes to your own personal journey, if you are going on a healing journey, you cannot stop. You cannot stop. You can take breaks. You can take a rest. Sometimes that healing journey might look like a bunch of different roads or like a tree, right? Going off into different branches until you get to the top. And, that's healing. If you do it all at once, you're going to overwhelm yourself. And that's where a lot of the stress and the overthinking comes from. But when you take breaks, when you realize that sometimes you are going to be facing some of the same things over and over again, instead of saying, oh God, here we go again, ask yourself where you're at. Where am I versus the last time this came up in my life? And you might be surprised. You might really be surprised. So let's see, let go of stress. Your body has been tense because the people around you are wound up too tight. This has made you think that you're the one who's stressed when it's really on them. Stress has had some bad effects on you, such as making you feel angry or sad. You may have also had some trouble sleeping. I'm sorry. Yeah, never mind. I know some of my regulars watch this show, and they're people I've had conversations with throughout the week. And so, and when I say my people, like my friends and my family and stuff. So, when I do this, that's because they know. But if I'm doing this and you're getting it, then it's for you too. Okay. So now is the time to do something about this. Stress can worsen things, so it's important to let it go. Breathe in a deep gulp of air and think about all the things that make you feel stressed. Then blow those things out, and the angels and unicorns will take them to heaven where everything is fixed. Stretch your arms and legs so that your body lets go of stress too. Now, think of something that makes you feel happy. You can also talk to a friend, a pet, or your angels and unicorns. You don't have to feel stress, anger, or sadness. You have the power to choose your thoughts and feelings. The unicorns hope that you'll choose to feel happy right now. Now, I agree and I disagree with that part because, if it's somebody else's stress or somebody else's anger or somebody else's sadness, you can just gratitude that they feel better. But if it's yours, it's something you need to work through. It's something that, that you have to ask yourself, is this something that's affecting me? Is this something that's being triggered? Or is this just an emotion? You have to move through the feeling. You don't just push it down, move through it. And then the more you learn how to do that and discern where that feeling is coming from, the quicker you're going to move through it and go, okay, I'm fine. It's just, it's a moment. All right. So card number 2, brothers and sisters. To get along with others, see the love and the best within them. I feel a little excluded. I have soul siblings, but I don't have my own siblings. Although I admit one is DNA, but to get along with others, see the love and the best within them. Now, I know it says brothers and sisters, but the bottom kind of says more, right? So maybe they're bringing up this relationship because we know sometimes siblings have a tendency to just get on each other's nerves, right? And, they'll be, blame each other for stuff. This is your fault. This is your fault. They'll just be mean to each other. They'll project. They'll do all kinds of weird things. I've seen this. I am the only child in my entire family. Okay. Of first cousins. Of all my first cousins, I am the only child. So I've seen this. All my first cousins have brothers and sisters. They all have siblings. And, sometimes when we get mad at them and, again, go through the feeling, move through the feeling. Is it something worth being mad about? Is it something that, needs to be addressed? Or is this just a superficial moment where something else has bugged you and they were just the straw that broke the camel's back? Those are the things you have to move through and work through to understand. But see them with love and see the best within them, because as older sibling says to me, everyone's doing the best they can every day. And I sometimes think, no, I think sometimes people are half-assing their way through the day, but that's just me because, I'm pretty hard on myself, but I am starting to understand that. And I'm starting to understand what that term meant. The first time she ever said that to me, it's like, no, but it's true. We're all doing the best we can every day, no matter, even if we lose our shit, right? We're doing the best we can. And the more we learn these things, the quicker we're able to come back around and not let losing our crap ruin us for the rest of the day. We're not going to let it run our day. We're not going to let it dictate our day. We're just going to say, you know what? That was a moment. I'm letting it go. Okay. I'm letting it go. So yeah. And I think that's more than just brothers and sisters. I think that's, just people in general in our lives. Go in love, right? Even if you don't want these, even if you decided that somebody's too toxic for your life, go in love. Don't hold anger. Just let them go. Cut them loose. Cut the line. Let them free. Set them free. So, because they have their own things they need to learn. And, we can't fix people. We can only help people through their stuff. We can't fix them. We can only guide them. We can't fix them. We can just love them through it. And, when people try to sabotage things, those are not the kind of people you want in your life. You want the people that are going to be supportive. You're going to want the people who are going to see you when nobody else does. You're going to want the people who are going to love you even through your messiness, and that's not just romantic. That's just across the board. Your friends, your family, yes, your partner, coworkers, love comes in all different shapes and sizes and all different variations. All right. So sometimes family members take stress out on each other. So you may feel angry or hurt by a brother or sister or a close friend. Instead of fighting with them, first take a moment. Can you see the best within them? Can you think of a time when you felt a lot of love for them? By thinking and feeling love toward your brothers and sisters, you can all get along better. The more unlovable someone is, the more they need love. When people get angry at their loved ones, they do so because they don't know how to control the stress in their life. They might be angry with their teacher or their boss and feel like they can't do anything about it. So they take the anger out on the people they live with, and that might include you. You may do the same thing to your family members without even knowing it. Deep down, you all love each other. Family members always have love, but sometimes this love is hidden by anger. It doesn't feel good to be angry with your brothers and sisters, even if you have a good reason for the anger. Can you forgive them in the name of peace? Can you be the first one to say, I'm sorry, or I love you? By drawing this card, the unicorns want you to know that your brother, sister, or friend really needs your love and understanding right now. You have the power to help everyone get along. I also think that goes along with, oh God, see, this is what I mean by the squirrels in the tree. I literally just, instead of a community of squirrels in my head, I've decided they're the squirrels in the attic until, everything gets balanced out again. But also, when it says there, can you be the first one to say, I'm sorry? This is where boundaries and compassion comes in. This is where we hold people accountable for their behavior. And I don't mean shame them into accountability. This is where we hold people accountable and say, hey, I see you. What can we do to help you through this? But I know it takes work. Sometimes you have to do that mindful breathing. Sometimes you just have to do a quick one. Count 1 through 10. So that initial feeling of, I want to punch you in the face turns into, let me hug you. And that's where it should be. Let me hug you, not let me punch you in the face. That is bad. So, I love this one. Just be yourself. Just be yourself. You're a great person. Enjoy being yourself. I know that might seem contradictory, right, to the last card we had, but people have issues. People struggle with certain things. People struggle with certain, oh gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? With their EQ, with their emotional responses to things. And because of that, sometimes we forget who we are. But, don't focus so much on the negative, okay? Especially with ourselves. Don't focus so much on the negative and what you think people see. Because the majority of the time, people are going to see you. You're going to be out. You're going to be having fun. You're going to be like, oh, that's, and then they might see you and you might be sad. And you might just be having an off day, right? Because you're not doing the fake it till you make it anymore. But when you're yourself, they're there for you. They might say, hey, you know what? Are you okay? Do you need a hug? And that might just be all you need. So, because you are a great person, enjoy being yourself. Don't let other people's opinions dictate who you are. There are 7.5 billion people in this world. Do not let one person ruin that for you. Do not let one person tear you down. Do not let one person make you feel like you are not worth it. Because even when we struggle, even in our messiness, we are worth it. We are worth people seeing who we are. And if we are struggling with something, if we're trying to heal with something, if we're learning that balance or that emotional response, that's because we're trying to be this beautiful person inside and let them come out without any judgment. Because a lot of times I think that's what it is. I think we judge ourselves so harshly that it comes out in the wrong ways. Like we project. Projecting is a big thing. I used to do that a lot. Hey, you know what? I am not trying to tell you all this stuff out of nowhere. I have a lot of fingers pointing back at me, okay? Because I have been through all this. I have had to heal a lot of crap. I've had to heal a lot of the pain I caused because I was in so much pain and I projected. And, when I say blind rage, I don't mean like I went around, shoving things off of desks. Although I have to tell you, I told sibling once, I said, I just want to be in a TV show where I can, push things off. And she's like, why a TV show? And I'm all, because in real life, I have to pick all that stuff up. And I probably would anyways, because that's the kind of person I am. I'd be like that person. The minute they yell cut, go pick everything up and put it back on the desk. But I've just always wanted to do that. Somebody needs to set up one of those, those rooms where you can go and destroy things. Someone needs to set one up where it's an entire office and you can just shove things off the floor. You can throw things. You can do whatever. That is the ultimate. But it just seems like fun. But it also feels like it's, because whenever I see that, and somebody does that, it just feels so satisfying, right? Like something you really want to do because you just feel it in your head, but you can't because you got to pick it up all off the floor. So my mind goes in weird ways, but that's not so much me anymore. Me now is in a place where I want to see and help all of you be. This place where, there is healing. Where there is this, just this level of peace that you can maintain. And if the peace starts to be interrupted a little bit, you know how to circle back. Don't worry if your anger feels like it might get away from you. Oh, okay. Bye guys. Sorry. One of my viewers has to leave. So I hope you all have fun today and I love you all. All right. So as baby sibling and my nephews. So, older sibling says, I want to be a cat. Probably, right? This is a cat. Yeah, that's a cat. For all of you who probably don't know. But cats are also loving. I know people don't see that. A lot of people think cats are just assholes. But they're not. I will say this. It's like with any animal. Okay? You give a dog respect. That dog is going to respect you back. You give a cat respect, that cat will give you respect back, sometimes on their own time. But if you do run up behind them, well, if you don't run up behind them, don't run up behind any animal if you don't want to get bit. But if you come up behind them and just look them in the eye and go, oh my God, I just got to hug you right now and pick you up, they will probably tolerate you. A dog would just lick your face. And so that's where they are a little bit different. You would have to say that, if I were to, I'm going to use sibling and I as an example. Older sibling is one of these people that just jumps in feet first and trusts people. I'm one of these people who do not. You have to earn my trust because, I think it's a part of my healing And I told her, I said, the funny thing is though, is I said, neither one of these are good things, because sometimes I make people work too hard for my trust. So I said, somewhere in the middle between us is where we should be when it comes to trust. Somewhere in the middle is where the healthy boundary of trust is, where we discern who we want in our life, we discern who we don't. But we also don't make them jump through 50,000 hoops just to get there so we trust them. If you feel like you can trust somebody after, getting to know them and really kind of, just having this sense, really kind of digging into your spidey instincts. If your spidey instincts say, this is a good person, I can trust them, do it. Don't sit there and continually make people jump through hoops. You should not make people have to jump through hoops for you to trust anyway. But you should also not just jump feet first. And, because this is a different world. Actually, it's not a different world. If you look back, I was watching this one show on Netflix. I think they took it off. It was a British show. It was called, I don't know what it was called over there, if it was called the same thing, because sometimes they change the titles over here. But it was called Murder Maps. I know, but I like true crime. But they started with all these true crime things, and I thought, damn, that's a lot like now. But of course, those were just recorded in newspapers. True crime was in the newspapers. So when you really stop and think about it, the only thing that's changed is everything's more televised. Everything's more visual now, right? They do reenactments. They do all this stuff. I think the part of me in my head, somebody says, if you like true crime that much, you've got a problem. I don't have a problem. I find it interesting because I want the good guy to win. I want them to catch the bad person. I cannot watch true crime shows that don't have an ending. Like people are still out there missing, which I know sounds terrible. I like to see the good people win, even if it's just to, find justice for somebody else. Because I think sometimes inside of us, that's where something's missing. There's also the psychological bit of it. What makes people do this? There is not one show I watch. I could watch 5 in a row and it's still every single show. I just don't get it. Why? And then it gets even freakier when you realize how many shows are out there, and a lot of the stories are just different, and you're just like, holy crap. So I don't know what that has to do with just be yourself, but I kind of got off. I went off into a regular perspective show, so sorry about that. But just be yourself. Learn to love who you are. Because when you learn to love who you are and you stop projecting, we would probably have a lot less true crime shows on the show, on the airwaves. But, don't just say, well, we live in a different world. We live in a more advanced technological world. But I think the human mind is still very similar. It's more pronounced now because we can see it. It is, like I said, more visual. So sometimes you may worry whether other people like you. At those times, you may pretend to be somebody other than yourself. For example, you may try to act, talk, or dress like someone you admire. This card says that you're great right now. You don't need to act like anyone else. In fact, things will go a lot better and you'll feel a lot happier if you just be yourself. The problem may not be with you, but with the people around you. Perhaps they're trying to change you. Change is a part of life, and there may be behaviors that you can improve upon within yourself, but be sure that you're not trying to change into a different person. Also, know that true friends love you as you are and won't try to change you into someone new. True friends will ask you to stop dangerous behaviors, but they won't try to change you in a way that makes you feel bad about yourself. So spend your time with true friends instead of with people who don't understand you. This card always says that things go better when you trust your intuition. You already know what to do in your heart. Trust this inner truth and act upon it. Great inventions, books, and businesses are born when someone follows their own inner voice. You too are here to make a positive difference in this world, and the best way to do it is by being your true self. You know what's funny about this card? I literally just journaled about this morning. In one of my journals that I told you that I'm using to make sure I keep the balance in my head for right now. That was part of the shows this week about something that, how my medical stuff got all messed up. But I was writing, it asked me, have you ever, this is what it said. I'm just going to read it to you. The question was, have you ever pretended to be something you weren't? If so, why, and how did that make you feel? And, what did you learn going through it? And older sibling and I were talking about this yesterday, how there was a lot of different, reactions. I mean, 20, 30 years ago, mental health was still trying to end the stigma. I mean, people have been trying to end that stigma for a long time. Probably even, especially, in the last century and a half, I would say, because, when Freud came onto the scene, or not even a century and a half, maybe the last 120 something years. But we stigmatize it. And so, after I was diagnosed, excuse me, with depression in my early 20s, major depressive disorder, the first thing I wanted to do was be normal. And so I tried to change myself. I did the fake it till you make it for so long that I forgot who I was. For me, it was a version of imposter syndrome, and then I'd come home and just be this completely different person because it was so exhausting and so tiring. And after a while, it's like, I think I'm in a period of rest now because I did that for so long that my body is just trying to catch up and say, hey, you know what? It's okay to be you. It's okay to be honest. The first time I really acknowledged my anxiety was just a couple years ago. And I don't get anxiety very often, but every so often it shows it rears its head, right? And I finally told somebody, it's like, I really wanted to come to this party, and I know that, you asked and stuff, but I said, I cannot, get myself to move today. I cannot get myself to function enough to just, be able to drive there and drive home safely without just being so exhausted from this anxiety. And I was worried they were going to be mad. And all they said was, thank you for being honest with me. Because, it's like, but honestly, I just want you to feel better. So it's like, we'll see you soon. And it's like, whoa, that's not the response I thought I was going to get. I thought I was going to get raked over the coals. But and there are people who do that. Well, you RSVP'd and you did this and you did that. And it was just a watch party, so it's not like it was going, it's not like it was a paid for meal, like separate. It wasn't a wedding or anything. Okay. It was just a watch party. I think it was for the Academy Awards. And I was just kind of like so overwhelmed that day and I don't even know why. I think I was really part of my healing. So I chose that day to be honest with myself. And boy, that was a game changer for me. I mean, there was still a road that I had to go down, but that was a huge game changer for me. So, sometimes it's what we have to do. Just be honest with yourself. And it's like the other card said, right? With the brothers and sisters and your close friends, your true people will care about you and love you, and they will see you through it. All right. So, healing with the fairies. I'm sorry that I'm just yammering so hard. I mean, that whole deck took so long to get through. I don't do the oracles every Friday now, so I think I kind of turned that into one of my regular perspectives. Maybe that's what I should do for a while, is just find a deck and talk about the card. Because we get a lot out of that. Sometimes I need it right now with my brain, with me trying to keep my brain balanced until all my medical stuff is sorted out. That might be the way to go, because I need prompts. So anyways, the first card. Okay, so this is funny. The last deck, we had brothers and sisters. This deck, we had parenting and children. Okay, so there's not a lot I can speak to on parenting and children because I am not a parent. I'm an aunt. I'm a pretty awesome aunt, I think. Well, I could be better, but we all have room for improvement, right? But hey, my nephews love me. The minute they found out I was on the phone, tell Auntie Shelly we love her. I know. I know. And for a preteen and a 10-year-old to say that, it's like, oh yeah. So I'm a cool auntie. But anyways, sorry. I'm done tooting my own horn. So anyways, parenting and children. I don't know. You know what? Let's read it. And maybe I can, maybe there might be something that I might be able to share on that. So, a positive change is occurring for you in the area of parenting. An unexpected occurrence will herald a happy outcome between you and a parent, a child, or both. Family units are extremely important to the fairy realm. They understand the value of taking care of these relationships. The fairies never allow your feelings to fester. They promptly discuss misunderstandings and they share their honest feelings with one another. By drawing this card, you are urged to face up to all ill feelings you may have with family members and take human and spiritual steps to effect a healing. This card may also signal that a new family member is coming into your life. This could mean a new child or a new family member by marriage. It could also signify the return of a family member with who you've lost contact. These changes come to you on heaven's wings, meaning that you are safe, protected, and will derive enjoyment from them. Affirmation. I have happy parent and child relationships. I allow my heart to open up so that I can feel compassion and love for all members of my family. I have some family members that, just we drifted apart, but I still send them love and compassion. I don't get it back, but that's okay, because it's not about, I'm not a tit for tat person. I'm not gonna, do something for you and expect something back. I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do, because you asked me. I will set boundaries if I find that there's some kind of advantage being taken of me, because that's not right either. And some people will do that. Some people will just take and take and take and take and never give back. And like I said, that's not a tit for tat situation. That is simply, maybe you just need someone to talk to. Oh, sorry, I'm busy. And they might be, but when it's consistent, but if you don't answer the phone when they need you, it's like, oh, well, how come you're never there for me when you're there for them all the time? So you really have to learn how to discern between, because it does really kind of walk a fine blurred line between, doing something out of the kindness of your heart and being taken advantage of. So, you just have to know. Okay. So because people give back in other ways too. Maybe someone asks you to do something and then you go hang out together somewhere else and they give you their time. So everything works out in its own way. So, it's how you see it, and it's how you choose your boundaries, and it's how you set your boundaries. But I want to say this. So the funny thing is, when I pulled this card, I immediately thought of my mother. And my mom has since passed. It'll be 10 years this September that she passed away. I cannot believe it's been a decade. It feels like yesterday. But the reason I'm bringing this up is my mom and I know my mom loved me. I loved my mom. But growing up, we had a kind of, our relationship could get tense sometimes. And especially as I got older, like when I reached those teen years, and it's like you start wanting to do things your own way. You start wanting to do things the way is best for you. Sometimes as a parent, I think it's hard to let go. And you want them, because you don't want them to make the same mistakes, but in a way, you're kind of forcing them to make the same mistakes, because by pushing your, agenda on your children, you're not giving them a choice. So you're pushing them away in some respects, or you're making them resentful, or you're turning them into basically a zombie. Now, again, I know people are saying, well, you're not a fucking parent. How do you know? Because I've seen it. I have lived it. All right. My mom wanted so many things for me, but she had no idea what was going on in here. And there was a lot. And then when I did come out with my depression, we don't talk about that. I raised you to be stronger than that. And I was telling his older sibling yesterday, I said, who's my best friend? Okay, she's my soul sister. So we did not grow up together. We just kind of adopted each other in our adulthood, because we're both only children. But I was telling her, I said, I said the first time I went to therapy, I was 23. And I promptly stopped that therapy because my mom said that only weak people go to therapy. My mom didn't understand. There had been an incident in her family revolving around mental illness, and I think she thought that's what it looked like, but it doesn't. Mental health. I don't like the word illness when it comes to mental illness. I like to say mental health, because that's exactly what I want. What we're all striving for is that balanced mental health. But I think that was her version. That was the vision that she had of what it can turn into, and so I think it scared her. So really, what was happening was, she wasn't strong enough to accept what I was willing to push through, and I was actually the strong person, because I knew I needed help, because I knew I needed to find my way through. And because of that, my journey for about, I don't know, maybe 2 decades, just, it stopped. And I don't want anyone judging my mother. My mom grew up in a generation, and, just as a side note, when I really don't like the term boomers. Okay. I mean, if you're going to sit there and say it like, oh, it's, like in a funny way, but a lot of people use it as really kind of a disparaging remark. These are people who, yeah, maybe they don't necessarily understand what we're going through now, but that's not all of them. I mean, I know some boomers that are more technologically savvy than I am. Okay. I mean, my dad literally has 2 computers next to his desk, and I can't figure either one of them out. And I mean, one of them, I believe he put together himself. So, so they'll say, well, they don't know this, they don't know that. But then you could have someone who's the exact same age as him going, oh my God, oh my God. And so instead of looking at our past generations as being this, oh, well, they don't get us, they don't understand us, they're stuck in their old ways. Yeah, they are. But aren't you? When we go back and point fingers, remember, there's 3 fingers pointing back at you. Meanwhile, Generation X, us, is just sitting in the middle going, really? Like, and we're not perfect. None of us. No generation is perfect. No generation is perfect. There's always going to be a generation that's going to find problem with the past one. So instead of trying to find the problems, look at all the stuff they did. All right? Who raised the generation after them that created a lot of this stuff? Boomers gave birth to Gen Xers. Gen Xers put a lot of technology into this world. Millennials put a lot of technology into this world. And boomers also gave birth to them. So maybe you should be thanking them for being able to look at your phone, because they had some of that in them. They wanted better for their children. Yes, they might have been harder on their children, and no more harder than parents are now, right? But they just did it differently back then. Not always the right way. I'm not going to always say that the techniques back then were the right way, but this is why we change with every generation. We get better. And sometimes I think we go backwards when we sit there and point fingers at a bunch of people. Look at everything with kindness. When you're sitting there berating and complaining about a certain group of people, think about what they may have added to this world. That's all I got to say about that. But, and I know, I digress. But, by drawing this card, you are urged to face up to any ill feelings you may have with family members. The reason I wanted to bring up my mom in this situation. Now, it could be the good part, right? Where maybe someone's coming into your family, or, maybe you're single and someone's coming into your family, and maybe it's you. Maybe it's you who'll be bringing someone new into your family. Wouldn't that be exciting, right? I think it would be exciting. That would be lovely. But I wanted to bring that up because, as I mentioned, circling back, look, the oracle is going to be hard until my brain is balanced again. But, because it's going to almost be like an oracle perspective. But I wanted to bring up my mom because there's one thing my cousin told me to do that she didn't get a chance to do with my uncle. And that was to say everything you want to say, and leave nothing left unsaid. And my mom and I sat down, and for about 2.5, 3 hours, excuse me, in the middle of the night, we had this conversation. And, this is while she was dying. And we had this conversation, and I'm glad we did, but I wish we would have had this conversation when she was healthy. Because as an adult, we had a really good relationship, but that was only about 20 years of my life, maybe 21 years of my life. But the first half of my life, it was a struggle. There was a lot of, headbutting. And, there was, our good times outnumbered our bad. So I don't want anyone to think that, it was just this tumultuous relationship. It wasn't. I really don't have a lot of complaints about my childhood when it comes to my mom and my dad. I love my mom and dad. They were my shield against all the bad things. I probably attached myself a little too unhealthy to them because, I always loved being around them. And when I say unhealthily, I mean in the sense that they were my wall against the rest of the world. And then when I was out in the world, it's kind of like, oh, I never taught myself these skills. And so I had to learn fast. And that might be why I'm also very distrustful because, I used to jump in feet first. So somewhere in the middle, like I said, is where we need to be. But if you are struggling talking to a parent, just sit there and say, look, I want to have a conversation with you. There's some things that bother me, and get their side of it. See their side. I mean, do it in a constructive way. If you start fighting, just tell them in the beginning, if we start to argue, I am going to stop the conversation. I'm going to get up and I'm going to walk away. Not because I don't want to hear your side, but because maybe you're getting upset, or maybe you realize they're getting upset. Don't put Don't push the blame. Have a constructive conversation. You know, just say, look, this was something that I just want you to understand. I wish I had sat down and talked to my mom and said, look, I'm continuing with therapy because I know it's something I need to move forward with the rest of my life. Now, I can't blame my slow progress and my really wherever I ended up being on my mom, because I do believe that I'm right where I'm meant to be. Because now I can talk to other people about it. I can tell those other 23-year-olds out there, hey, you know what? I get it, but this is who I am. This is what I need. And I'd really like your support. I didn't have that kind of courage back then. I didn't have that kind of strength back then because my mom was my strength. My dad was my strength. My dad was where my compassion and empathy came from. My strength, it was where my mom came from. Not that my dad isn't strong, but my dad is a very compassionate and empathetic person. My mom was that way with everybody else, but not with me. So it was kind of a balance between the two of them because I think she was always worried. You know, I mean, I had heart surgery when I was 3. So, I mean, I can't even imagine what it's like sitting in a hospital seeing that. You know, your own kid, you know, and back then, it's not like it is now. They didn't have the tiny beds for the tiny kids. They had big beds for little tiny kids. So, you know, you look so small and dwarfed inside of this, you know, whatever. We didn't, you know, children's hospitals were not, they were there, but they weren't big like they are now. You know, at least not where I grew up. And so we sit here and I feel very strongly about this card. If there's something you need to say, say it. Okay? If it's not something you're comfortable doing, don't. But if there is something where, you know, you go to like, and don't wait for the holiday dinner to do it either. Okay? Have a conversation with somebody outside of that. Don't sit there and try to shame anybody or guilt anyone. You're not there to make them feel bad. You're there to share your feelings and how, you know, you have realized this is where you need to grow. And, you know, there was one thing that, you know, I'm not going to talk about it, but there's one thing that my mom and I did try to talk about. I tried to talk about it with my mom, and she would not talk to me about it. And it wasn't something she did. It was something I did that she never forgave me for. And, because it went against her religion. And so, I never received that forgiveness from her. And it took me years to realize, and this is only less than 10 years ago, but it took me a long time, basically in the last couple of weeks, to realize I didn't need her forgiveness. The only person's forgiveness I needed was my own. It was a choice I had to make. You know, I mean, if you're good at reading between the lines, you'll get it. But it was a choice I had to make, and it was a choice I made, and it was a choice I could not undo. So, and you know what? I'm just going to say it. I had an abortion when I was 22 years old. It was, there's a lot more to it than just saying, oh, let's do this. No, there was a lot of thought that went into it. There was a lot of scariness. Literally from the moment of conception to the time of the procedure, it was 8 days. So you may not think there was a lot of time, but I did it because I was in love with somebody who did not want it, you know, and I listened. You know, and people may say, yeah, but ultimately it was your choice. It was, but I was in a trauma brain back then. And so I was a people pleaser, which is going to be a subject next week. And I never told a soul. 3 people knew, maybe 4. And a year later, I was just in tears, racked with guilt, because I've never forgotten the date. I've never forgotten the day that the process started. I never forgot the day it ended. And it has always weighed heavy on my heart. And my mom just would never forgive me. She told me, she said, well, I'll pray for the baby's soul, but I will not pray for you. And that still hurts. So if you are a parent and your child has made a choice that, you know, you may not agree with, give them the love. Actually, it's making me emotional. Give them the love and compassion that they need. Maybe it's not something that you agree with. Maybe it's not something that you would have done. You know, but I was so scared and I was so confused. And then she told me, well, don't tell your dad because he'll be mad. And in hindsight, she said that both times. These are 2 times I should have gone to my dad because I think my dad would help me work through it better. But for whatever reasons, I will never know my mom's reasons on why. And I don't think it was just religion, but I'll never understand my mom's reasons on why. She just would not forgive me. And like I said, it took me years to realize I didn't need her forgiveness. I needed my forgiveness. But I did need her love. I did need her support. And I did need her compassion all those years ago when I was a young adult trying to manage something this big. I mean, the guy I was dating at the time was basically a decade older than me, but I was more mature. I'm just saying, I was more mature. And, you know, he convinced me it was the right decision. And I paid the price for it. He didn't. Eventually we broke off. He went off. We talked about, you know, our own relationship when his new one started to come to a certain head. And I told him, I said, stop being a putz. Just like, did you not learn anything from our relationship? And then he got to have the kids. I know, right? So, you know, sometimes we have to move in those directions. And we just have to realize that it's not always someone else's forgiveness that we need, but our own. And I know the show's getting pretty long, so I think I'm going to stop it here despite the fact that we have another deck. But I think that's actually a good stopping point. Because like I said, this oracle reading has been more like a perspective than it has been an oracle reading. But I think a lot of what we talked through here are things that needed to be said. You notice a lot of family stuff came up in this. So, you know, the brothers and sisters card where it's, you know, like give that family member compassion, love, you know, support. I think it also goes with the parent and child, the parenting and child deck or card, because sometimes, you know, the people we love are going to do a misstep, and we can make them feel bad about it, or we can help them through it. And making them feel bad about it is not going to help them. It might make them bitter. It might make them worse. I mean, I think about the trauma I went through as a child. And I think about all the other people I have met along the way. And a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them have struggled with substance abuse of any sort. I admit I became an emotional eater, but that was after my procedure. It literally started that day. Because I found comfort after feeling so horrible and crying the whole time about, you know, something I'd done. I got more compassion from that doctor performing the procedure than I did from my own mother a year later. You know, because I wanted to punish myself. And he's like, I'm not going to let you do that. This is not something that you want to be awake for. And I was in tears. I literally, when he was patting me on the hand and telling me that, you know, that he wishes me well in life, I was crying. That's how I fell asleep. You know, and then I woke up later and, you know, I was surrounded by people who were, it was just like, oh yeah, you know, I've done this before. And it's like, I'm not here to judge, but that's not me. But I'm also here for the right to choose. You should have the right to choose. So let's turn this into a political statement now, just really quick. I believe in a woman's right to choose. No one should tell you how to deal with your body. Okay? Because everybody's different. Everybody's different. And I made a choice that day. It's a choice I own now. And I'm no longer ashamed of that choice. It was a choice I thought I was supposed to make at the time. In hindsight, it was a good choice. And no one will ever understand that. But you have to understand, the relationship I was in was toxic. And you know, raising a child in that kind of relationship would not have been beneficial for anybody. And I'm not saying go out there and do it. That was my situation. But in the aftermath of that, people, friends, family, children, parents, they're all going to make decisions. They're all going to make choices that you may not feel suit you. You know, I mean, and it's not your choice. What other people do, just be supportive. You know, and if there's something that you see that might be wrong, try to have a conversation with them and try to tell them, look, I'm not trying to blow up your life. I'm just saying, watch the patterns. And if they don't listen, just be there for them if things go awry, right? Sometimes they're going to go sideways and you're just going to be like, don't sit there and go, I told you so. You can say it in your head, but don't sit there and go, I told you this was going to happen. No, just sit there and go, well, you know what? It's a lesson, right? It's a teachable moment for you. It's a lesson learned. Because all you're going to do is piss people off when you go, I told you so. Sometimes I have done the I told you so, but that's really when it's like, really, really? And it's something so superficial that it's one of those I told you so's where you all just start laughing because, you know, you literally have done the same thing and you're like, I told you that wasn't going to work the way you thought it was going to work. But it's like, now you want my help, you know, so sometimes it's just a fun necessity, but it's all in the delivery. You know, if you're going to say it like a snotty person, it's going to be received like a snotty person. So just go out in the world, be your best self, just be yourself. Like the other deck said, just be yourself, you know, listen with compassion, listen with empathy. You cannot fix anybody. Okay. You may see somebody trying to make a mistake or making a mistake. You can't fix anyone. The best you can do is be there for them. The best you can do is say, hey, I see you and maybe this isn't something I've been through, but what can I do to help? Or do you just want me to be here to, you know, for you to lean on? Be supportive. Be supportive. You know, when I finally did tell my dad about both of these things, it took him a while. It took him over a year to tell me that he was hurt, that I didn't come to him. And I'll be honest with you, that made my heart sink. It did. It made my heart sink. He told me, it hurts my feelings that you didn't, you know, trust me enough to help you with this or to at least listen to you, despite what your mom may have said about not saying anything to me. And I thought, you know what? And I told him, I said, I am so sorry. I said, I never even thought about that. But a lot of the reason I told him all these things is because I was really kind of coming into I was coming into the station with all of the healing stuff, and I needed, you know, the train ride wasn't over yet, but I knew I was at that next station where I had to be honest with my dad on why sometimes my behavior can be the way it was. Because, you know, when you're on a healing journey, sometimes sometimes your emotions will be a little erratic because there are triggers. There are things that come up or things that you might see. I mean, it could be something as simple as seeing a street sign and you can get triggered. I know it. People will be like, that's dumb. It's not. It is a thing. And I've been through all those. And I say I've been through all those because I know other people have been through all of those. And the reason I point back to a lot of what I've been through is because I want people to be able to relate. I don't want people to feel alone. I open myself up when it comes to my mental health. And, you know, I do that because that's how I advocate. That's how most people advocate. People who are advocating for a lot of different things are opening up from a place of having been there. You know, I mean, like, or having been through the process with somebody. And so I was in a place where it's like, you know what? I can't have secrets from people I care about anymore. People I love that love me. And, you know, my dad being my last parent, I knew I had to say something to him. And it wasn't because I was hoping for a better reaction than my mom. It's because I wanted to be honest, but it never occurred to me that telling him this stuff, you know, 20 plus years later would hurt his feelings because I didn't go to him back then. And my dad and I were always very close when I was growing up. You know, I mean, my dad always, you know, I got in trouble. Trust me, I got in trouble from my dad. And my dad's a Scorpio, so, you know, they have that look. But that look they give you when they're mad. But my relationship wasn't as strained as it was with my mom when it could be. I mean, like I said, I love my mom, and it wasn't, I don't want to say strained in the way that a lot of people complain about their parents and never talk to them again. Oh no, my mom and I hung out all the time. We spent our birthday month together on the very last weekend of the month. My mom and I had a great relationship in my adulthood, but we struggled a little we struggled sometimes when I was growing up because, and it all ended when she told me, she's all, you know, if you could just understand that you're my baby and you're always going to be my baby. It made sense to me then. You know, my mom, I was her only child. She almost lost me when I was just a baby. So I think she held on tighter than she held on really tight. And once I understood why, it changed the dynamic of our relationship. And if she just would have said that to me sooner, Maybe I would have listened, maybe I wouldn't have, but I would like to think that I would have. Our relationship probably would have been a little more different during my teenage years. But it took a big fight for her to finally say that. And then she was so shocked when I said, "Is that it?" And she's all, "Well, yeah." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And she was so shocked. She's like, "That's it." And then she looked at me like, "That's it?" I'm like, "Well, why didn't you just say this to me?" And she's like, "I don't know." And then after that, we just hugged and cried. My dad was in the hospital, so we went to visit him after. But it was something that simple. Communication is key, guys. No matter what card resonated with you today, whether any of them did or not, whether, something me rambling on about, hit you between the eyes in the right way, everything in life requires a level of communication. Relationships, friendships, family relationships, parent-child relationships, sibling relationships, best friend relationships, romantic relationships. Communication, yes, love needs to be involved, or love is usually involved. It's just that feeling that comes with everything, especially when you get close to somebody. But if you don't have good communication, you are going to struggle, or it is going to hit a wall and it's going to fall apart. And from that, I speak from experience. From that, I speak from about the 5,000 self-help books that I've read in my life. And communication is everything. It is everything. And it's not always easy. It can be messy. It can be painful. It can hurt. So you have to come in from a place of compassion and empathy. We can't fix anyone. We can only fix ourselves. But like I said, we can guide each other through. We can help each other through. And in the long run, when it comes down to it, we could probably leave a room feeling better than when we walked in, less afraid, and knowing that, when you've had a good conversation with someone and it didn't end up, in somebody walking out of the room in anger and slamming the door. Like I said, if you need to get up and walk out, that's one of my things. When I find that I am triggered by something and it starts to come up and I can feel it kind of just swirling around in my chest, I will literally tell older sibling, I have to stop. I have to stop. And it's nothing against her, but I'm just saying, she's my roommate too. So, a lot of times she is the one person I interact with the most. Or even my dad will just say, "You know what, I'm going to get up right now before I say something I don't mean, because then I can't come back from that." And it's like, when I come back, if we're still supposed to talk about it, we'll talk about it. If not, maybe this is just something that's saying this is over, this is done. All we're going to do is fight about this. And I don't like to fight about things anymore. I've had those friendships where they go in circles and circles and circles, and then you make up and you're friends again, and then it starts all over again. And it's not worth it. It's not worth it until you sit down and have an honest communication and honest talk with somebody, without, you both wanting to rip each other's hair out before the end of the conversation. So, when it gets to that point, it's not going to resolve itself until somebody, decides to be the adult in the room. And I'm not saying which one. There have been plenty of times when I have not been the adult in the room, and I should have been, and I wasn't. And you just cycle through it. So, anyways, I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful day. I'll see you back here on Monday. I really want this medical situation sorted, because my brain just took a left turn and it's just kind of like, what? But yeah, just, go through the day with compassion and empathy. See how you react to things. If you're a parent, see how you react with your children. See how you react with a family member, a sibling, whoever, but go through it with compassion. All right. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back here on Monday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific time, Facebook Live. All lives are public on the Aloha Perspective. So if you'd like to pop on and join me, that would be absolutely wonderful. That would be super great. And it would be fun. Or if you have some input that you would like to put in, I'm free and open. I am always open to learning something new. And I'm always open to, just because I'm a work in progress, and I know I'm going to be a work in progress my entire life, because that's what we all are, and I'm proud of my progress, but I know that I love to learn. So I know there's always going to be something that's going to hit me outside of left field and go, whoa, no way. Or like, oh, I never thought of it that way. It could be the same thing that I'm talking about now, but somebody's different perspective on it, which is still it's a learning thing. So I'll be back here then. If you don't catch those, I do have a shorter version on TikTok. And I also have a YouTube page. See, this is what I mean. The squirrels in the attic are going. They're like, "La, wrap it up, Shelly Marie." So, yeah, the squirrels in the attic say goodbye. We're on YouTube. All right, under the Aloha perspective. Have a great day, and I will see you later.